We believe that about 40% of the teams in all of the NAIA still have the potential to make the playoffs in 2024. Is one of those teams your team? Well, I hope we can talk about them tonight here on Midwest Sports Net. Hey, I'm Joey McWilliams. Glad to be back with you midweek. It is midweek here, and I may be catching some of you all church time, no church time tonight. So I hope I'm able to spread this out. Maybe you're watching this after church on a Wednesday night. Privileged to get to be with you tonight, and as I've said before, it is always a privilege to get to talk with you about small college sports here on Midwest Sportsnet. So we're going to get right to it and talk about teams across the country. We're just going to make our way across the country from where the sun comes up all the way across to where it is setting, and probably has set for just about, well, most everybody so far. Maybe you're watching where the sun's still out. That's fine. Where I am right now, the sun conference is what we're going to be talking about. That. How was that for a segue? Felt a little forced. I know. That's all right. Okay. Kaiser, the number one team in the country, pretty much universally. And we believe Kaiser is going to make the playoffs. Now, there's a little bit of separation between Kaiser and St. Thomas. Kaiser can afford to lose a game. Right now, 6-0 on the season, 3-0 in Sun Conference play. St. Thomas can afford to not get the at-large bid. Now, if St. Thomas wins out, that would be a record with just one loss because they've already played Kaiser, and that's the loss in the conference standings there. It's why they're 3-1. So this becomes a bit of a challenge there. And so Kaiser has already defeated St. Thomas and Southeastern. Kaiser just needs to win out. And if we look at the schedule for Kaiser, they play Weber International this Saturday. This is a Kaiser team that's won 17 consecutive wins, has 17 consecutive wins, including the national championship last year, 29 regular season games against NAIA teams have been wins for Kaiser. So we think Kaiser pretty much is putting itself in the position to win. We think there's a lot of potential there. We think St. Thomas is next on that list in the Sun Conference. St. Thomas, however, has a huge game this week, and that is against Southeastern. Now, Southeastern 5-1, still in the hunt, but Southeastern may have to get over that hump like St. Thomas did. 2 consecutive years prior to 2023 in which St. Thomas had a good record, didn't find a way to get in. A win for Southeastern at home over St. Thomas this weekend would be big. We think that is instrumental for Southeastern's playoff chances, but the potential is still there. And we did want to say there's still potential for Florida Memorial. 4-1, 3-1. That's where the potential is. Florida Memorial has to get an at-large bid. They're not going to get in any other way. 3-1 right now. Still remains to play Kaiser. That is a little bit later on this season. So from the Sun Conference, we will move over. Then let me see here. Can we do it? Yeah, we can do it just like that. All right. The Appalachian, Pikeville at 4-4 with victories over both Bluefield and Reinhardt so far this season. Pikeville, the magic number is 1. As a matter of fact, a win at Point this week, at the bye week next week, take on St. Andrews after that at home. But all Pikeville needs is a win this week against Point. They've secured the playoff spot. It would be, if Pikeville wins out, it would be a 6-4 record. I do want to point out, though, I think that this 6-4 record, if Pikeville wins out, now again, we'll talk about Bluefield and Reinhardt here in just a moment. Ottawa made it in last year with a 6-5 record. With a loss in the first round, wound up being 6-6. This Pikeville team is a different team than that Ottawa team was last year. Competition a little bit different. You're talking about things that just didn't go right in the crossover schedule that the Appalachian had with the Mid-South Conference. And there were games that were in the Bears' hands near the end of the game. They just couldn't close out. They go 0-4 to start the season. Since that time, 4 consecutive wins. This is a Pikeville team that we've said before. If you see Pikeville on the other side of the bracket in your first round game, and it will be on that first Saturday, that I don't see any possible way that a 6-4 team makes it into the top 12 seeds, quote unquote seeds in this championship series. I would be a little bit concerned. I would not want to see Pikeville on the other side of that bracket, but the win at Point this week, and if they don't win this week, then the magic number is still 1, and you have an opportunity hosting St. Andrews 2 weeks later. Bluefield, Reinhardt still with an opportunity because nothing's set in stone. The game isn't played on paper. You have to go out and take care of business. So Bluefield, Reinhardt, it's Reinhardt at Bluefield this week. The winner of this game is still in it pending what Pikeville does against Point on Saturday. Hello, Lisa. Glad you could be here tonight. Hoping the Falcons can get some love if they don't win the conference. We will talk about the KCAC here in just a moment and see if they do get some love. I don't know. But again, we'll get there in a moment. Mid-South Conference, Georgetown has the upper hand right now because, well, the Tigers have no losses. So Georgetown at 3-0, 5-2 record. Georgetown, I would think, would need to win the conference to get in because that would mean a third loss overall. And I'm not saying that a Georgetown team with 3 losses couldn't get in because clearly a Coach Oliver-led team obviously would look good, I would imagine, to the committee. And on top of that, this is a team that's shown it can play defense and play defense very, very well. Georgetown will play Campbellsville and at Campbellsville, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, and then at Lindsey Wilson the week after that. So the Tigers still have challenging games on the schedule. Nothing set in stone there. Georgetown does have the upper hand, though, because at this point, with no conference losses, they're pretty much their fate is in their hands. So keep that in mind. Campbellsville still with an opportunity not only to win the conference, but Campbellsville could get in with an at-large bid. Campbellsville with a win here against Georgetown at home next Saturday would put itself in at least for a week, the driver's seat to take the championship of the Mid-South Conference. But you're also looking at, if Georgetown defeats Campbellsville in 2 weeks, it's still a Campbellsville team that potentially could have only 2 losses. That's something that might look good as an at-large bid to get in. Lindsey Wilson, we have them separated just a little bit. The Blue Raiders play at Cumberland this week. That's not going to be an easy game at all. Bethel, hosting Bethel the next week, and then finally the season finale hosting Georgetown. This is a backloaded schedule, to say the least, for Lindsey Wilson. It was a challenge last year. It became a de facto playoff game with Bethel, in the final weeks of the season. And Lindsey Wilson, already with 2 losses, cannot afford to have another loss and get in as an at-large bid. I don't think the resume looks as good right now as what a Campbellsville resume would look like at this point in the season. And so Lindsey Wilson needs to win the conference, and we think there's potential there. But, man, it is a long way to go. So that is a look at the Mid-South Conference. Let's keep on moving now to the Mid-States. We'll take a look at the Midwest Division first. And we have just 2 teams on here right now. Now, granted, there are 6 teams in the division. There's still so much to be played because only 40% of the games within divisional play have taken place. We're putting the top 2 teams in specifically because they play each other on Saturday. The Fightin' Tumultees, St. Francis of Illinois, taking on St. Francis of Indiana. And this is a tough game. It's always a big battle, but there's a lot on the line in this one because the winner comes out of this very, very strong. So we think these are the 2 with more potential. Now, I'll stop right there and say this. If you didn't see your name come up on this or the team that you're cheering for come up, we have no problem bringing that name in next week. These are just the teams, and there are, I think, 39 of them I wind up talking about over the course of the evening tonight. 40% of the 97 teams in the field. So if you don't see your name, but these are the 2 teams we think have the most potential coming out of the Midwest right now, and just the way they played. So from the Midwest, moving over to the Mideast, Indiana Wesleyan and Concordia. These 2 teams play on Saturday, and realistically, the winner of this game, I mean, not only do you have a game lead, you have a game and a half lead over the other one because you have the head-to-head matchup. Indiana Wesleyan has just dominated with the exception of the game against Valpo. Over the course of this season, it's been all Indiana Wesleyan all the time. The offense has looked fantastic. The defense has stepped up. Concordia playing in its final season. And I think that Cardinals fans would be able to step up and say, hey, listen, we've owned this series. 5 times the two teams have played, and 4 of them have been Concordia victories, and that includes a win last year over Indiana Wesleyan to keep the Wildcats from having the perfect regular season. So, by the way, don't think that's lost on this Wildcat team either. They remember that. I'm very, very sure about that. But both 2-0 in the conference. Winner gets the upper hand. That is on Saturday. Taylor at 6-2. Taylor, we think, still has a small chance for an at-large bid and a small chance to have a conference title coming the Trojans' way as well. Already with a loss to Indiana Wesleyan, so the Trojans need Concordia to win and a couple more things to go their way. Potential is there, not just for the conference win, but also for the at-large opportunity for Coach Mingo's squad. And the offense is strong. You get your quarterbacks back. I mean, I don't know, maybe one of the top 2 quarterbacks back. Things could look a little bit better for them, but that's what this is looking like right now. All right, let's move on along to the Hart Conference, more divisional play. Grandview at 7-0, 3-0 in North Division play. Graceland at 6-2, 3-0 in North Division play. Now, I could have separated those because of the overall records, and the reason being Grandview, the number 2 team in the country, is likely to get in even with a loss to Graceland or someone else. The Vikings have played strong, solid this season. 57 consecutive regular season wins. Let me say that again. The Grandview Vikings have won 57 consecutive regular season games. It is unlikely to think that another team's going to come up there, but you know it has to happen eventually. We saw it happen to Morningside last year. The Mustangs had 75 consecutive regular season wins, finally fell in conference play, dropped a couple of contests last season. So it's there for Graceland. We've mentioned more than once here, Graceland is our dark horse team. We think that the Yellow Jackets have an opportunity to make some noise deep into the playoffs if they get there. Here's where it becomes big. These two teams don't meet this week. They don't meet next week. They meet on the final week of the regular season, November 16th. So there's still a ways to go before you get there. Now, I know you get teams like Peru State saying, hey, we still have a chance. We think it's going to come down to these two teams just because it's there. So we're going to keep these two teams as our ones with potential. Again, we can make a new slide next week if we need to. Graceland needs to win the at-large bid. The Yellow Jackets, as strong as this offense is, and it's strong, best wide receiver in the NAIA plays for Graceland and Gerald Monroe. I mean, he just dominates at that, and Cade Ross can find him game in and game out when they're connecting. As dominant as this offense is, I do not see the committee looking at a 3-loss Graceland team as an at-large bid. There are some other teams that will get in from other conferences, and we'll talk about them as we go along. So Graceland needs to win out. That would be 3 straight games, and they need to go ahead and take care of business in the Hart North. That would also mean a win in Des Moines on November 16th. Moving on along, let's do that. Let's go to the South. Hart Conference South, Benedictine, Mid-American Nazarene. Hey, guess what? Those two teams play this weekend. That should be a lot of fun. We think they obviously have the upper hand, control their own destiny. Either team winning out would take the Hart South Division. Baker is still sticking around. Now, this is a Baker team that defeated Mid-American Nazarene last year after a Benedictine loss, and then Mid-American Nazarene defeated Benedictine in the finale of the regular season. It was a 3-way tie. Mid-American Nazarene has improved over the past 3 years, moving upward. A 9-win team last year, pushing to be an 11-win team in the regular season this year, or a 10-win team, in the regular season this year. They're going to have to win out to do it, and they're going to have to do it against Benedictine. So keep this in mind, though. This game is at Olathe. By the way, with a win there for Mid-American Nazarene, if the Pioneers pull it off, they have to take on that Wildcats team that not only got the win over them last year, just dominated against the Pioneers last year. When things got out of hand for the Pioneers, Baker took advantage and just rolled. And so this is a big game this week, but the Pioneers have control of their destiny. They host Benedictine this week. They host Baker next week. Those are the big things. Don't forget about the Ravens, though. It's the Ravens team that took care of business early on against Morningside, has a strong resume right now and is looking good week after week. We're not making a pick on this game just yet. However, this one's going to be fun. And again, Baker is right there. One more loss, we believe the Wildcats could withstand and still be a potential playoff team. We don't think two of them. We think two of them would keep the Wildcats out. So just something to think about right there. All right, let's move on along, and we go to the GPAC now. The Great Plains Athletic Conference. Morningside at the top of this list with the top 10 win over Dordt last week. Morningside at 7-1 overall. The loss to Benedictine to open the season. 7 straight wins since then, all of them in conference play. Dordt picked up the loss against Morningside. Northwestern picked up its loss against Concordia, by the way. So we have Concordia on this list too with potential. But let's go back to the Mustangs for a little bit. They host Northwestern in a big-time top 10 matchup. That will be in Sioux City on Saturday. That is the game to watch this week. There are a lot of games out there to watch, but of our top 3, we may put that one at the top just because of all the implications it's had so far over the course of the last few years. I mean, it's been one of these teams or the other, it seems like, in the championship game year after year after year. They're playing each other on Saturday. It is a game to watch. Morningside at Waldorf and then hosting Dakota Wesleyan after that. The Mustangs can't just, go on cruise control with a win over Northwestern, but it sure does put Morningside in a good position. Our pick, by the way, to win the GPAC this year. Northwestern taking on Morningside this Saturday, then at Dordt. That's another big game. That's next week. We can talk about that a little bit more. And then Dordt playing Briarcliff this week, hosting Northwestern on November 9th. So those 3 teams still with an opportunity to win the conference championship. We think Concordia is on the outside looking in for that, but there's so many things that can happen. So many combinations of things can go right and go wrong. Concordia deserves to be in the conversation because the Bulldogs, even though there's a loss to Morningside, even though there's a loss to Dordt, those are quality losses. And to win out from this point on for Concordia, no matter who you play, it would put you at 9-2. Your 2 losses would be to top 10 teams at that point in time for sure. Concordia could be someone else who could be looking in. Does that mean I'm saying that Concordia means the GPAC will get 4 teams in the playoff? Absolutely not. Doesn't mean that at all. Just means that a lot of things have to play out to put Concordia in. However, Concordia has put itself in the position to be in the conversation here in the GPAC. Want to give a shout out to everybody watching tonight. Thanks, Dale, for watching tonight and being a part of the program. For Elisa, for being a part of the program tonight. If you haven't put in the chat just yet, especially if you're watching us live, who you think your team is or who your team is and who you think should be in the playoffs, that's fine. We'll be doing this a couple more times over the course of the regular season, so just join right on in. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel really quickly, and let me just say we're talking about the GPAC right now. Subscribe to the channel. It's free. I've said before, I will say again, we know this much about what it does algorithmically to help our channel, but it's kind of cool seeing the numbers go up there. And so we're pushing for another goal. We want to get to that 2,000 mark, and we would appreciate it if you got to be a part of it. And we also have memberships now to help support the channel and help us grow and do our jobs even better and to work on, this is Studio B. Studio A is up here. And I'm telling you, one day Studio A will come to fruition, and we already have the place for it. We have some of the equipment for it. We need to get some more equipment for it, but we're working on that. I think Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet would like to see me get after that sometime soon. But anyway, we invite you to become a member. Would just love that. And also, though, just please subscribe to the channel. That's where we are. All right, let's bring it back here and go to the KCAC. That's a conference I know Elisa wants to hear about, and we'll get to that mighty Kessinger division in just a moment. Meanwhile, to the Kansas, Wesleyan, and Tabor, they are yet to play. They will play coming up. These are the 2 teams we think have the potential to come out of the Bissell this year. Kansas Wesleyan has looked strong. The Coyotes, a team that just, quite frankly, is in transition. It's going to be a little bit. There'll be more adjustments to this team as they go along, but it's a team that's in transition. Tabor looking good right now. Both of them even 500 on the season. So the team that comes out of this one likely will be the team that wins this game. All right, to the Kessinger division, where, again, we're talking about 4 teams. Now, granted, we have a conference coming up where we're actually talking about more than that, but I think you know what's coming a little bit later on. The Kessinger division in the KCAC. Evangel at the top after that huge victory over Friends last Saturday. Big-time win for the Valor. 19 consecutive regular season wins for Evangel. And if you haven't seen, we had a chance to talk with Coach Chuck Hepola this week. That was on Monday. If you haven't watched that yet, please check that out. I know there were a couple of folks here on the channel on the live chat Sunday night. I was trying to preview it without saying exactly who it was. I know it sounds like I was just trying to not jinx it, and I really kind of was trying to not jinx it. But anyway, Evangel, obviously in the driver's seat. Evangel takes on McPherson this week, and McPherson also pushing the Valor out of the way, saying, hey, we're in the driver's seat as well. So both of these teams with no losses in divisional play. It's tough to talk about this one, not unlike the Mid-States Midwest, because only 40% of the divisional games have taken place so far. Evangel's looking strong. McPherson looking strong. If everyone is healthy, this should be a fun matchup to watch. So another big-time game taking place this weekend. Friends has the one loss. Now, Lisa, to your Falcons, let's say this. The Falcons have just one loss. 1-1 in Kessinger division play. If Friends wins out, that would put Friends at 10-1. Now, that also means that, well, let me just say it like this. If either McPherson or Evangel win out and Friends wins out, that can't happen because Friends and McPherson play each other. So if Evangel wins out and Friends wins out, Friends is at 10-1. I'm trying to give you a scenario where Friends is 10-1 is what I'm trying to say. And they don't win the conference. It becomes a challenge because, yeah, can they get some love if they don't win the conference? Will the committee look around and say, hey, you know, the KCAC as a whole, with all 12 teams, 2 divisions, is worthy of having 3 teams in the playoffs? I think you look at Friends and the way this team plays, and I don't see how you could look away from them again. And I say that because it was a 9-2 Friends team that put together the 4th largest total in NAIA history in rushing yards in a season, did it in only 11 games. All 3 of the other teams that are ahead of them did it in 14 and 15 games. I don't know how you look past a Friends team again, especially one with just one loss. Now, could it happen? It absolutely could happen. But nobody in Kansas City asks my opinion on these things, so that's all right. We'll let the season play out because Friends still has to play McPherson. That's a big game as well. Southwestern, don't be fooled, as the Mound Builders are still very much in the mix on this one as well. The one loss coming to a Friends team that was ranked at the time. So there you go. Not going to be 4 teams out of the Kessinger division that make it. But it's possible with as good as these 4 teams are. And I know I just talked about Friends right there. We can talk about the Mound Builders as well. Braden Howell, fantastic quarterback. Absolutely fantastic quarterback. Tristan Zabo, fantastic quarterback. You've got teams that can play offense, teams that can play defense. It's a different look all the way around. There could be 2 teams from this division. And I want to say that because I want to normalize it. There could be 2 teams from this division, and I think it's something worth mentioning. All right. How about a conference that there will not be 2 teams from that division? There will be only 1. And Dickinson State has already clinched a share of the conference title. The magic number to win outright is 1. 1 Dickinson State win. The Blue Hawks have 3 games in which to do it. And the next one coming up is this week at Jamestown, the 78th meeting between these 2 teams. Dickinson State owns a 50-27 record all time against the Jimmies and already won this season 42-6. So Dickinson State trying to make it to a 10th consecutive playoff appearance. All right, the Sooner Athletic Conference, another team that, in times past has pretty much needed a hug when it comes to the postseason. Texas Wesleyan at 7-0. I will stay on this soapbox. So I'm going to pull the soapbox back out. I know I'm in the little box over on the screen. I'm going to put the soapbox right here, climb up on top of it again, and say if the Rams win out, the Rams deserve a home game in the first game in which they play. I'm not saying the first round game because that would likely be a bye at that point in time. I'm saying the quote-unquote second round game or the first game in which the Rams play. If the Rams go and they host Texas College this week, a very strong Steers team, Texas College this week, and they get a win. Then they host Langston next week, a very strong Lions team, and they get a win. Then go on the road at Louisiana Christian. Not as strong this season, but a tough place to play. The Rams deserve to host a playoff game. OUAZ still in this one big time, and a big couple of big games on the way. Texas Wesleyan already has defeated the Spirit this season. OUAZ hosts Langston this Saturday. The Spirit have a bye and then close out the season on the road in no man's land up in Goodwill, taking on Oklahoma Panhandle State. A 10-1 OUAZ, an 8-1 OUAZ team, which would be 7-1 in conference play, warrants attention, and there's potential there. Langston, on the other hand, has to win out. Langston, even at 4-1 right now, and the opportunity is there to take the conference title because the next two games for Langston are on the road, but they're against the teams that are above them on that graphic right there. Texas, you got OUAZ on Saturday. That's in Arizona, and that is a big-time game right there. Langston to go out to Ottawa, win that game. Then the next week would have to go to Texas Wesleyan and win that game, and then close out the season hosting Wayland Baptist, who, don't look now, gets better every single week. Langston would deserve to win the championship. If that were to happen, it's going to have to be 3 straight wins for Langston. But the Lions have won 4 straight coming into this weekend. 1-2 to start the season. Langston now 5-2 overall. They're on the outside looking in if there is a loss in those 3, but to win out, Langston could win the championship and take care of business from there. And so you have to have Langston in the mix. All right. And I know a lot of folks may have been waiting for this one, so let's go ahead and bring this up here. Here's the potential as we see it. Carroll, 5-0, in control of its own destiny. Likely the most backloaded schedule that I've seen in years and years and years. And it continues as Carroll hosts Southern Oregon, a top 10 team, this weekend, then plays at Montana Western, a top 5 team, next weekend. And then the only team to have defeated Carroll this year was in non-conference play, and it was Montana Tech, who's put up more than 130 points in the last 2 times it's taken the field. Montana Tech at Montana Tech on the road. And that's after defeating College of Idaho the week prior. Very, very tough. These ranked teams, it's just a big-time tough road. And Jack Perka does not have all of his weapons at his disposal right now. So what did he do last week? He simply threw for 461 yards and a Saints passing record to get the victory, a 2-touchdown victory over College of Idaho. Well, Carroll's hosting Southern Oregon this week. Saints have their destiny in their hands. Montana Western is the team that we picked here to win the Frontier Conference this season. And you know what? The opportunity is still there for Montana Western, and it's a little bit, it's not quite the murderer's row schedule, as Corey said the other day for Carroll. I mean, ridiculous close to the schedule. Montana Western plays on the road, taking on the MSU Northern Lights this week. They host Carroll. We mentioned that earlier on November 9th, and then at Eastern Oregon to close things out. Montana Western is not only in a position to win the conference, we believe Montana Western could get an at-large bid, a 2-loss Montana Western team, although we've seen 3-loss teams from the Frontier make it in this new 20-team format in the NAIA playoffs. We saw it last year, and are we going to see it this year? A lot of folks are really, really high in the Frontier Conference, can totally see why, but it's a conference that does kind of eat its own as well. Southern Oregon, top 10 team, 7-1, 4-1. It's still right there in front of them to take the conference. Things have to happen. One of them is defeating Carroll on the road at Carroll this coming Saturday. Then after that, hosting Eastern Oregon, and then at College of Idaho. A very challenging schedule ahead for the Raiders. opportunity is there just 4-1 in league play. Montana Tech, 6-2, 3-2. We think the Ore Diggers still have a shot at the conference title, but even if they don't, winning out against Arizona Christian, MSU Northern, neither one factoring into the top in the conference, and then College of Idaho in the finale, we think that would look good. And not only that, but it would be a Montana Tech team that would be 9-2. Even with other 2-loss teams in the Frontier, it is likely you could get a 2-loss team, a 1-loss team, and a no-loss team in. Or there's not going to be any no-loss teams. You could get in 2-loss teams and a 1-loss team. I don't believe you're going to get 4 teams in from the Frontier. And I will just go ahead and put that on record right there. So let's go ahead. Let me see if I can do this here. We'll talk about College of Idaho. Let's just do that. College of Idaho, 6-3. There's potential. There's precedent for a 3-loss team making it in from the Frontier Conference. College of Idaho would have to have a lot of things go its way to make that happen. So I will say right now, I do not believe that there will be 4 teams from the Frontier Conference that make it in. There are just too many other talented teams out there. Now, we've talked about 39 teams tonight. 40% of the NAI. Next week at this time, that number will very, very likely go down, but each of these teams still has the potential to get there, the potential to make it, and we think it should be a lot of fun. So big games this weekend. We'll preview all of those tomorrow night on the live stream right here on Midwest Sportsnet. So thanks to Elisa for chiming in tonight, Dale for chiming in tonight as well. Hope you're enjoying the cooler weather. Hasn't quite gotten as cool yet here, but we're hoping for some rain in my part of the country tomorrow. That would be really, really nice. We'd like to have a little bit of that. Glad that the ground was dry when they were moving some things around on my property earlier this week, but you know what? That's done. And so now go ahead and let it rain, let it snow, let it go. I don't know. We can go all frozen here if we need to close things out. Be sure and tune in tomorrow night. Again, please subscribe to the channel. Opportunity for membership as well. We appreciate both those things. But, most of all, as always, I just want to tell you, it is a privilege to get to visit with you tonight. Other things aside, subs, members, all those other things that are out there, it truly is a privilege. And I praise God every day for the opportunity I have to get to do the things that He's allowed me to do, that He's gifted me to do, and that I have the opportunity to do just in working with other people. So it's a privilege to get to visit with you tonight. God bless you all. Preview the week on the NAIA football schedule. Week 10 is coming up, and that is tomorrow night when we talk about it right here on Midwest Sportsnet. God bless you all. Have a great night.